Okay, so we have moved over to the car. And yes, all this cloth around here is to prevent things from going down into the engine bay should I have another slip. I've got a little grease on the end of my paintbrush. I'm going to apply that inside my retainer. Smear it around a little bit. And that's going to hold the locks. Then I'm going to do my best, maybe with a little more grease. I'm going to pick up my lock and lay it in its taper. And there it is. Now this is the hard part, getting the second one in. I see I've got a little grease here. I'm just going to harvest that. I'm going to turn this little lock around and I'm going to grab him and lose him. I'm going to grab him again. Ooh, the hands stay shaky. And we're going to put him in there. Come on. Sure looks easier in the other YouTube videos, doesn't it? Well, I'm telling you the truth. It's a finicky little thing. Anyway, we got my two locks in. And I've got the bottom end of my spring, a little oil on it. Put it in there like so. Doesn't matter if it cocks off to the side. And we'll put the retainer in. It's just all sitting in there nice and loose. I'll tap that one lock down just a little bit. And here's this socket with the rubber in the bottom of it that covers the drive hole. That'll make that little tent that holds the retainers in when you push them down. And we'll very carefully align that. And now you've got this cylinder, or this socket with a pretty close fit in the bore that this bucket tappet rides in. Very musical. So I'm going to grab this guy. Where are you? This guy, spark plug socket with the finger ratchet. And I'm just going to put that on top, and we're going to use that to push. And hopefully this will go nice and easy, and it'll be one-hit wonder. Again, we're keeping this big pusher socket with the spring and retainer inside it as centered in this bore as we can. And we're just going to push it down. Okay, now, here's the dollar question. Is it locked or not? It is somewhat locked. This is where the risk happens. We make sure that any way into the engine bay is covered up in case that explodes. And we very carefully, yes, I am wearing polycarbonate lens glasses. There's not a ton of pressure on this spring, but it will surprise you, and with oily hands, you're going to lose it. So I'm going to grab it with the forceps, because that rubber has gripped the outside of the spring. And I'm I'm just going to pull it up off of there and take a peek. And we'll see what ho! That's how easy it is. The locks look to be pretty well engaged. I'll get out my maggot frying glass. I'm going to look down there and I'm going to see that my hand shakes like hell. I'm going to see that those locks are pretty well engaged. I'm going to get my fancy feeler tool here, my itty bitty screwdriver, and see that they're level with each other. They are. Okay, that is assembled. That's how easy it is when it decides to be. You didn't see the 5 times I tried to do it in front of the camera, and that footage is gone. But that's how easy it normally runs. Normally it doesn't take 5 tries. Now, I've got a 6-inch or 6mm socket. The valve stem is 5.5mm. There we are. Sorry. The valve stem is 5.5mm, so it'll fit inside there. And these guys, the outside, will push down on the retainer, or on the lock. I'm just going to make sure. You might see the spring move down a little bit. Yep. That is very nicely engaged. Had one of the locks been slightly up, not engaged, this tool with the finger ratchet on it again would have clicked the lock that wasn't locked in to the groove. So we are assembled. We'll take a dab of oil and we're going to go around the spring inside the bore that the bucket tappet fits in. Get that oiled up. Make sure there's no crud, which there isn't. On the inside of the tappet, that's right where the valve sits. We'll put a dab of oil on that. And using the finest tool for finding crud, the human fingers, we're going to rotate that bucket. Make sure there's no crud on it. I'm going to give it a little bath in oil. And we're going to go down the bore with it and watch it slide down slowly by itself. Maybe tap it a little bit. There you are. That is what I call assembled. Now, I'm going to do something stupid. I'm going to move you over to one of the intake valves. Uncover it. Maybe wipe the schmutz off it. And you see there's the rope down the cylinder. that's holding the valves up. I've got the piston rammed into the bottom of a bunch of rope in the cylinder. I'm going to grab a magnet and we go with the magnet on top of the bucket. That's how you get buckets out. And we see, I don't know, do we see? Looks like we got to turn up the brightness again. There we go. Whoops. A little too bright. We see that valve sitting there. Valve in the center. Retainers or locks just visible. Retainer sitting on top of the spring. That is an assembled unit. And we're going to take my fancy tool here, which again, retainer fits the inside bore, spring fits the outside bore. There's a little pocket for the locks and a magnet to pull the locks out. And we'll show you how hard it is to remove a valve spring on a 2000 Toyota Celica. Get it on over there. It locks in nice, and we push down. And release. Here's your retainer, and there's your spring. We pull the retainer out, and there are the locks stuck to the magnet. It's that easy. Out is very easy. Back in is difficult. Well, you've just seen back in, and I'm not going to do it again on camera because that was pretty nerve-wracking. So I'll put this back where I found it, and I guess we're going to lay the cams on top and start pulling them down in a star pattern with the bearings. And timing should be in order, and we'll be driving this thing shortly. Well, shortly meaning a couple, 3 hours. That is all.